Hi, this is Allison. I wanted to come on today for just a couple of minutes to talk about what you can be doing to get ready for moving to France if you're a little bit farther than 2 or 3 months out from your potential move. So I always have a lot of people contacting me through my contact form, through Facebook, saying something like, well, I plan to move to France when my daughter graduates from high school in 2023, or I'm going to be moving in about a year when I retire from my job or when my lease ends or something like that. What can I be doing now to get ready to move to France? And it's a little bit tricky to have a consultation with me and to come up with this visa plan because it's not really time for us to start working together when you're that far out from your move. But I developed this tool that I want to share with you today called the Franceformation Readiness Assessment, which is kind of a way to start getting ready to move to France, even if you're not ready to actually buy your plane ticket or start your visa application or anything like that just yet. So one of the things that I developed when I was working on creating my Franceformation packages is I wanted to fully support my clients when they're coming. So not just in terms of getting the right visa application, but also making sure that you kind of know everything that you need to know and all of the questions that you're going to have, even if I can't give you answers, even if I can't give you like professional advice in that area because it's, something that an accountant would do or a notaire or a real estate agent or some other kind of professional. I wanted to give you the tools to at least have the questions so that you're not totally blindsided by something that comes at you like from a random Facebook topic or some nasty surprise when you arrive in France. So I developed something called the Franceformation Readiness Assessment, which is going to assess 5 areas of your life that you need to sort of get organized a little bit before you start actually preparing to move. And those 5 areas are your mindset, your money, your visa security, your professional development, and accountability and planning. So I'm just going to take a minute to talk about each of those areas and kind of give you an idea of what you can start working on now to sort of get those areas of your life organized. So mindset sounds like a little bit of a woo-woo thing, but actually what we're talking about here is vision. So I always like to start off by asking my clients what their vision is for their long-term plans in France. Is this something where you want to stay for a year or two, maybe write a book, travel a little bit, visit some vineyards? Maybe I have some clients that like to plan to sail boats throughout Europe and they want to be based in France. Is it something where it's going to be a project for a couple of years, or is it something where you're going to be focused on developing long-term residency, maybe buying a house, spending your retirement here, and potentially even dying as a resident of France? Because those are all questions to consider, is how those goals are going to affect the plans that you start making now and the prep work that you start doing now. The second foundation of Franceformation is your money. So if you're a little bit later in your career, you've already got some work under your belt, maybe you already own your home, you already have financial assets planned up, you want to know how moving to France is going to affect your tax situation, how buying property is going to affect your tax situation, and a little bit about, double taxation treaties between your home country and France and things of that nature. If you're earlier in your career, you want to be focused on how are you going to be able to save for retirement if you've split your career in 2 places or even more than 2 places. How are you going to be able to save for retirement if you're a US citizen but you're living outside of the US and so you can't necessarily contribute to US retirement accounts, but you also can't contribute to French-based retirement accounts because they're tax disadvantaged in the US. How is your salary going to be affected if you move to France? These are all important questions that you need to consider if you're still working or if you have financial assets that you need to make sure are protected through an international move. Visa security is a big one. So a lot of times people are trying to get the visa that will move them to France the fastest without necessarily considering the long-term implications of whether or not that's what they actually want to do long term. So for example, someone will come to France with a visitor visa and expect to be able to change to a salaried visa or start a business or change their status very easily within France, which is not a very easy thing to do. Or they'll come with a temporary work visa and then decide that they really enjoy being in France and that they want to stay, but then they have to go back to their home country in order to get the right visa that will allow them to have a French work contract and be in a CDI and stay long term. So there's a lot of different questions that you want to consider about your visa situation, including whether or not residency or naturalization as a French citizen are something that interests you, and how you want to plan your visa strategy so that you are able to achieve those goals if that's what you want. And that's something that you definitely need to do before you even begin thinking about your visa application. Professional development is another big one. So again, if you're moving at some point during your career, you want to know, are you going to be able to continue with the same profession that you're doing now? If not, are there skills that you have that you can use to pivot into a similar profession or even an adjacent self-employment activity once you're in France? What are the salaries going to be like in your profession? If you're doing something like a regulated profession, like you're an accountant or even a human resources professional. Human resources is a lot different of a career in France because there are so many different laws regarding employment and employment contracts and employee protections in France as compared to the US or perhaps in your home country. So even if you're in a career that's not necessarily regulated, it might not be similar to what you're doing now. So that's something that you want to research before you start actually planning for your visa application. And finally, accountability and planning. So this is where you want to see where all the steps are that are laid out and all of the topics that you need to learn about in order to actually prepare for your move. So what do you need to learn? Are there skills you can start developing now? What areas of French, if you're learning French and your French isn't necessarily super strong, are there areas of vocabulary that you can develop so that when you arrive in France, you have a little bit of an easier transition, whether it's in terms of your job, whether it's in terms of being able to do some of the basic administrative procedures, things like that. So I put together this Franceformation Readiness assessment, and basically it's a series of questions to help you, one, develop your vision and how you're going to plan your move to France, and two, to ask you a series of questions about how prepared you are in different areas. So how prepared you are for your visa application, how prepared you are for switching your career to whatever you're going to be able to do in France. So I really encourage you to download the Franceformation Readiness Assessment, answer the questions, see where you are, see what topics you need to find out more about, and then ask them in the Facebook group so that we can help you get prepared and we can help you figure out what you need to learn on your journey to ultimately moving to France. So I'm going to drop that link in the comments, and you can do this at any time, whether you're planning on moving in 5 years or in 5 months. The Franceformation Readiness Assessment can help you get an idea of those things that you need to know. So please download it, and I look forward to seeing what your questions are as you get prepared to move to France. Bye.